Senator Kennedy just cornered Homeland Security Secretary with a simple question about border security that exposed the real reason Democrats are furious. What you're about to hear isn't just political theater. It's a brutal takedown of 4 years of deliberate border failures that let 20 million people flood into America illegally, while federal judges stayed silent.
Well, I need a little help from a chair that respects the members of the committee. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
You pretty much secured the southern border, haven't you?
Yes, sir. The CBP,
And
that
that upsets some of my colleagues, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. They say you've done it the wrong way, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Could you answer that?
Yes, sir. They do say that.
Do you think they're upset because you supposedly did it the wrong way, or you think they're upset that you did it at all?
I think they're upset that by President Trump enforcing the law, it happened so quickly and successfully.
Yeah. Now, when President Biden came into office, the first thing he did was get rid of all of the things we were doing to stop people from coming into our country illegally, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, it was like the Price is Right. Come on down. Except he said, come on in. And most of my Democratic colleagues went along with that, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
In fact, they cheered him on, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
How many people do you think President Biden let into our country illegally? Just give me a ballpark figure.
Sir, we don't know for certain, but we believe it could be upwards to 20 million people that are illegally in this country.
So that's like adding 10 Nebraskas to our country, isn't it?
That's correct.
Why do you think President Biden and my Democratic colleagues did that? Do you think they believe in open borders?
I think they believed in open borders and letting people come into this country that would affect our society and criminals. Those other countries emptying out the worst of the worst, their mental institutions, their prisons came in here and jeopardized, and known terrorists.
Well, only one or two circumstances are possible, it seems to me. Either President Biden and the Democrats who supported him believe in open borders, or the people that President Biden put in charge of securing the border, you wouldn't trust to run a snowball stand. Right?
That is correct.
So nobody is that incompetent. So it has to be, they just believe in open borders, do they not?
Yes, because I know the people who were securing the border and they weren't allowed to do their job.
Do you think they believe that vetting people at the border is racist?
Yes, I do. I think by the way they allowed people in and granted them immediate parole status.
Do you think that President Biden and some of my Democratic colleagues, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, Madam Secretary, thought of these foreign nationals in our country illegally as potential new voters?
I do, sir.
Okay. If you're an ordinary American and you oppose illegal immigration, but you support legal immigration, does that make you a racist?
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. It just means that you believe there should be a rule of law, and that's what America was built on.
And that's what you've been enforcing, right?
Exactly. We have been following the Constitution and the rule of law in this country.
And I want to be sure I understand, because there's been a lot of confusing testimony here. You've secured the border, have you not?
This administration has, yes, sir.
And some of my colleagues are upset with you.
Yes, sir.
And they say you did it wrong.
Yes, sir.
And do you agree with me that what they're really upset about is that you did it at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to ask you a last question about our federal judiciary. I've said repeatedly that all of us has a moral and a civic obligation to follow federal orders, and I stand by that. But there have been a lot of national injunctions, universal injunctions issued to try to stop you from doing your job. Where were these judges when people were breaking the law and coming into our country illegally? Were any of them speaking up and issuing national injunctions against the Democrats?
I don't believe I can be specific about every single judge, but these judges that now are trying to stop us from enforcing our laws, I don't believe or recall them.
Can you
being
think,
vocal then.
Madam Secretary, of one single solitary federal judge who, when President Biden and my Democratic colleagues, not all of them, but many of them,
Gentleman's time has expired.
Secretary or Senator Murray went on over about 2 minutes, so I'm going to take a minute.
Senator Van
Well, if
Hollen
you
just got
can-
shut down.
Yes,
right
if
on
you
the
can,
zeros.
if you can finish your question.
Can you recall one single solitary federal judge when President Biden and my Democratic colleagues were letting 20 million people come into the country illegally?
I don't recall.
Can you think of
Thank
one
you.
single solitary judge
you.
that issued
more
a
than-
national
Thank you.
injunction
more than
to
one
stop
question.
them?
No, I can't recall
I
one.
can't either. If there weren't
you,
for
Senator
double
Kennedy.
standards
Madam
around
Chair,
here,
Okay.
Madam
there
And
wouldn't
so
be any
Senator
standards
Peters.
at all, Madam
have any
Secretary.
Thank you.
Committee,
Thank
Madam
you,
Chair.
Senator Kennedy.
I'd-
Senator Peters.
Madam, let me just say, let's apply the rules fairly. Senator Van Hollen was asking tough questions, but was shut down pretty immediately when his time was expired. Can we at least have a commitment, Madam Chair, that senators on this committee will be allowed to submit questions for the record,
Absolutely.
and that you will
Yes.
Absolutely.
ask the secretary to answer those questions?
What Senator Kennedy did in that hearing wasn't just questioning, it was a masterclass in exposing the fundamental contradiction at the heart of Democratic border policy. He methodically walked Secretary Noem through a series of admissions that revealed something most politicians won't say out loud. The border crisis wasn't incompetence, it was policy. Kennedy's opening move was deceptively simple. You pretty much secured the southern border, haven't you? But watch what happens next. He doesn't celebrate the success, he immediately pivots to Democratic opposition. That upsets some of my colleagues, doesn't it? This isn't random. Kennedy is setting up a logical trap that forces a choice between two explanations for Democratic anger. The key moment comes when Kennedy asks whether Democrats are upset about the method or the result itself. Noem's answer cuts to the bone. I think they're upset that by President Trump enforcing the law, it happened so quickly and successfully. This isn't just political spin, it's an acknowledgement that effective border enforcement threatens a fundamental democratic assumption about immigration. Kennedy then walks through the Biden administration's first-day reversals of Trump border policies. The Price is Right analogy isn't just colorful rhetoric, it captures something essential about policy intentionality. When you systematically dismantle working border security measures on day one, you're not making administrative adjustments. You're making a statement about what you want to happen. The 20 million figure Kennedy cites represents more than statistics. It represents the scope of deliberate policy failure. To put that in perspective, that's roughly equivalent to adding the entire population of Florida to the country without legal process. When Kennedy compares it to 10 Nebraskas, he's not just making numbers relatable, he's highlighting the demographic and political implications of that scale. But Kennedy's most devastating line of inquiry focuses on judicial double standards. For 4 years, federal judges issued nationwide injunctions to stop Trump border policies. But when Biden opened the floodgates, where were those same judges? Kennedy forces Noem to acknowledge she can't recall a single federal judge issuing injunctions to stop illegal border crossings under Biden. That's not judicial restraint. That's selective enforcement of judicial authority. The exchange reveals 3 uncomfortable truths about immigration politics. First, effective border security is technically achievable when there's political will to enforce existing law. Second, opposition to enforcement often stems from disagreement with the goal, not the methods. Third, institutional actors, including federal judges, apply different standards based on which administration is in power. Kennedy's final line, "If it weren't for double standards, there wouldn't be any standards at all," crystallizes the broader pattern. The same institutions that aggressively constrained Trump's border enforcement remained silent, while Biden's policies created what even supporters acknowledge is a humanitarian crisis. The broader implications extend beyond immigration into fundamental questions about democratic accountability. When Kennedy pressed Noem about whether vetting border crossers is considered racist by Democrats, he's highlighting how enforcement of existing law has been reframed as discrimination. This rhetorical shift has real consequences. It makes career Border Patrol agents reluctant to do their jobs and creates political cover for non-enforcement. Kennedy's suggestion that Democrats viewed illegal immigrants as potential new voters touches the third rail of immigration politics. While Democrats dismiss this as conspiracy thinking, the political incentives are undeniable. Areas with high immigrant populations tend to vote Democratic, and census counts include non-citizens for congressional apportionment. Whether intentional or not, these dynamics create electoral advantages that complicate any honest discussion of enforcement. The exchange also reveals how institutional capture works in practice. Federal agencies, courts, and even local governments can effectively nullify federal law through selective enforcement and procedural obstruction. Kennedy's questioning exposes how this happened systematically during the Biden years, not through formal policy changes, but through 1,000 small decisions to not enforce existing requirements. Most importantly, this hearing demonstrates why effective governance requires clarity about intended outcomes. When policymakers refuse to state their actual goals, whether that's managed mass migration, demographic change, or humanitarian obligation, they make accountability impossible. Kennedy forced that clarity, and the results speak for themselves. This hearing exposes a reality most political discourse avoids. The border situation isn't primarily about competence or resources. It's about competing visions of American sovereignty and who gets to decide immigration policy. Kennedy forced those competing visions into the open, and Noem's responses confirmed what border security advocates have argued all along. The crisis was the point, not an accident.